Hello, this is Jim at Crow Auto Parts. Today we're going to install the 54D and 54S on a Ford Econoline van. This one's got the 4.6 engine, but our brackets will fit the 4.6, 5.4, and the V10. The installation we're doing is the passenger rear. We only do carry the passenger rear and driver's front. We cannot build ones for the opposite corners. We've tried and it's just not possible. But we do them for the passenger rear, driver's front. Here's the 54D. The 54D bracket does your passenger rear upper and lower, or the driver's front. The 54S is the same bracket except for it only does the passenger rear or driver front upper instead of the 5D where it does the upper and the lower bolt. The 54D, a lot of times when you are bolting it down to do a trial run on this, the bracket may hit around the inside of here real lightly because of different castings on the manifolds. This one did touch a little. We ground a little bit off of the corner down here. It may be necessary for you to do that. So when you're tightening it down the first time, if it starts to act like it's pinching somewhere or take a look around the manifold, you may have to take it back off and just do a little touch up on it just to make sure. We try to keep them as heavy as we can, and that's why we don't grind out any more than we have to. The bracket will curve around, like I say, and go around to the bottom bolts. The other thing is there's two different size bolts we send along with the bracket. There's a larger bolt and smaller bolts for mounting. Some of the 5.4s and the 4.6s use different sizes, and we send them all along for you, and that's for the 5.4S too. They both are the same. The tools you're going to need: just a simple 3/8 ratchet. I like to use smaller ratchets in the tight area like this. 3/8 ratchet extension maybe. A 17 millimeter, that works for the pinch bolt. That's for your pusher bolt. And the other pusher bolt is a metric Allen wrench. Because if we have clearance, we had to use an Allen wrench. That's for the bottom. You've also got a 3/4 inch socket. That's for the smaller bolts. And for the larger bolts, we have a 7/8 socket. And you can use metric too. We're going to show you here how the mounting bolts are made into the cylinder head. So, and we do, just so you know too, we have instructions along with torque specs and everything for this bracket. Here's the mounting bolt holes for the 54D, 54S. They're both the same holes. The mounting holes are about 1/2 inch diameter. They are metric, but they're about 1/2 inch diameter. Here's one, here's one. Now, Ford, in some of these brackets, or some of these cylinder heads, they used, especially with the 3-valve design, they had, instead of these two holes here, they had a larger hole here, even larger than this one. It was drilled and threaded, and then right in front of it, right about here, is a hole that's real small and non-threaded. That's a different design bracket. That's a 5.4 Triton bracket, 3-valve. If you have that on your cylinder heads, please call us directly so we get you the right bracket. But it's basically the same mounting design. It's just that the holes are different. So like I say, please call us if you have a very large hole here with threads in it, bigger than this one, and then a little hole right in front of it. That's a Triton. That's a different bracket. On some applications too, when this happens, these bolts break off in here. The bolt actually breaks off and is sticking slightly, just slightly sometimes, out of the manifold. If it is doing that, you have to get that ground down a little bit. Otherwise, when you put our pressure on from our bolt that we're doing, it'll push on the broken bolt and not on the manifold. So it won't do any good. You're just going to be pushing against this broken bolt. So this one had that problem. I don't know if you could see, but I went in here with a die grinder and I just carefully ground that bolt down real slightly. Just use a die grinder with a stone bit. Here I've got a stone bit. Don't use a metal bit. Use a stone bit, because a metal bit, the bolt is so hard it won't grind, but the stone will grind it very nicely down. You can get in there with this small die grinder or one of these air powers and grind it down just a hair, just so it's underneath the lip, just under the lip of the manifold. Okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna put this bracket in. Yeah, sometimes you got to kind of fish around a little bit with it, especially in a tight corner like this. The other thing I did do on this one, just to make a little more room, both for me putting the bracket on and for us to videotape, I did take the passenger side motor mount nuts off, put a jack underneath the engine pan, but make sure you put a block of wood or something so you don't bend your oil pan. And I lifted the engine up slightly. If you need more, or need room yourself, you may want to do this. Lift it up maybe an inch or two, but make sure it's secure. You don't want it coming down and smashing your fingers or anything like that. So, all right, on this one we did lift it up a little bit, and I can show you that later in the video when we're from underneath. So we're gonna go and put the bracket in. We're gonna get around the camera here. All right. Okay, we're in place. Didn't go too bad. Like I said, sometimes the first round, you may have to grind a little metal off of our bracket to get a little better clearance to get in here. So we're in. This one does take the larger bolts. Another thing I should have reminded you of before setting the bracket in here is make sure the pinch bolts, both upper and lower, are turned all the way back away from the head. Obviously that'll cause you some trouble if you don't have them turned back, so pre-turn them back. I didn't show you that, but that is the thing you want to do, is get them back out of the way and get these caught. And I always like to put anti-seize or oil on the bolts prior to installation. Like I say, just in case you want to take it back off someday, the bolts won't be stuck in the aluminum. Now there is a block of steel right here on our bracket. It's just a little square, and it bumps up against that square on the aluminum head here. When it's tightened down, it's kind of nice a lot of times to check too as you're tightening it. See if you can maybe slide a little piece of paper or a really thin cardboard. There should be just a little clearance between these two. You don't want them, as they're tightened down all the way, you don't want it really pinched tight. This is just a reinforcement kind of on the plate so it doesn't try to twist. But it's usually all right, but I like to check them. On this application, it's pretty easy to look at it because it's from the top. Normally when you do it on a pickup truck or whatever, I always take the inner fender well out. You got to get the fender well out so you can see what you're doing, and makes life way easier. This one here, like I say, should have enough space. You can see that right now that there is some space between here. You could slide a little piece of paper in between or whatever you want to do here, and just to make sure. But like I say, it's just something to double check. All right, and you don't have to pull these down real tight. In the instructions we have on there, 10 foot-pounds for the two bolts. Just snug them. And you don't even have to use a torque wrench. Just give them a snug. And then on the pinch bolt we have 25 foot-pounds on the upper one. The bottom we got 18 on. The only reason the bottom one isn't quite as high is because it's farther away from the compression, so we don't want to twist everything around. But it works out really good. The top one you can put up, like I say, pull up to 25, or if you just get in there with a hand wrench and just pull it until it's good and really good and tight. So we're gonna pull that top pinch down now. And you can actually even see on this one, the gasket is actually loose in here from the manifold being pulled away. It's literally like it's fluttering in here. But the gasket looks really good. And you want to look too to make sure that gasket looks good, because obviously if the gasket's no good, the bracket's not going to do its job. So you want to kind of make sure this one looks real nice. It's not all rotten. Looks like it's all there. And like I say, once you can see there's some play in this one, and once you pull this down, that play will be gone. It will pull that manifold tight. Starting to compress. Like I say, don't be shy. I mean, you can use a torque wrench, get in there, do it. Otherwise, you got a regular hand wrench or a ratchet, a small one like this one. I'm putting some strain on these things, and it'll take it. It's made for it. there you are. Top one's done. We're now going to go down to the bottom. So we're going to take a short little break here for a second in the filming, and we're going to move to the bottom here, and I'll show you what's below. All right, thank you. Hi, this is Jim Kroll again here at the Kroll Auto Parts, and we are starting the second half of the installation video for the 54D and the 54S. The 54S, you would not be working from underneath like this to do the bottom pinch bolt, because the 54S only does the top bolt. But on here we're doing the 54D, and I'm going to show you how to, from underneath, what I had to do. Now, like I say, I did make clearance on this one. It's a Ford Econoline van. This one's got a 4.6 in it. The 5.4 is the same application, and the V10. It's going to all be about the same. To make a little room on here, I did take the two motor mount nuts off on this one, and actually took a screw jack. You can use a jack or whatever you need to do to lift the motor up just a hair if you need the room. On this one I did for installation of the bracket and to help us out a little bit with the video that you can see a little better. So all we got left really on this one is the bottom pinch bolt. We did this bolt on the manifold on this one on the bottom too, such as it was on the top. The bolt was broken off the head, but the bolt was actually sticking out actually a little too far on the manifold. So if you were to try to turn the pinch bolt down on our bracket, it would actually bottom out on the bolt that was broken. So on the bottom, just like I did the top, which I explained to you earlier, I took a die grinder and I ground that bolt down a little bit so it's actually inverted into the manifold just a hair. It doesn't take much. I mean, about as much as you think the manifold is pulled away from the head, that's what you need to get back down. But you need to do that, because if you don't, our pinch bolt will just hit the bolt and not push the manifold. So you want to grind that bolt down a hair. And like I can see, I did it up here. Here's what you're going to need for that bottom pinch bolt. We do use an Allen socket head for that bottom bolt for clearance. Instead of a 17 millimeter for the pinch on the top, we use a H9 Allen wrench socket. And also, again, make sure you always have your battery cable unhooked on these, because when you're working here, you're working right by the starter wires. You don't want live wires hitting your wrenches, okay? So, and always make sure your engine is secure. If you've got a jack under it, wherever you put it, make sure you got a board so you don't bend your oil pan up. You know, make sure you do it safely, and make sure you block whatever you got holding it up so it can't come down and pinch your fingers in here anywhere. So anyway, all we're going to do is we're going to tighten down that bottom pinch bolt. You can use a torque wrench on it if you've got a way to get up in here, or if you have one. Turn the bolt down until it touches your manifold. And I'm turning it down right now. I don't know if you can see it real good, but I'm turning the bolt down until it touches. And if you do have a torque wrench, 17 foot-pounds about on the bottom here. The top one, 25, 30 you can even do on the top. The bottom, about 17, maybe 20. The reasoning is, I mean, you got a big reach around this manifold, and this thing is built heavy. It's solid steel. It's U.S. made. We build our own parts right here. And but it, you know, that's why the torque is a little less on the bottom. But otherwise, if you're using a regular ratchet, you know, just pull it down, you know, really good and tight. Don't just snug it. It's got to be tight. You want to pull that manifold down, hold it in place. So here we go. We're gonna pull her down. It's starting to get pretty tight. I like to put a little grease sometimes on the end of the nut that compresses too. It helps it stay so it slips on the manifold while you're tightening. It will burn off right away once you start the vehicle, so not a problem. All right, we're tightened down. And like I say, 17, 20 foot-pounds, or, you know, pull it until this one here. Usually we try to make the bracket so it pulls until the bolt head actually locks down on the nut here. That way it kind of stops it. It's got the pressure. It's a spring metal. It's going to hold its tension, and it works really good that way, because we got it's a spring metal design, so it holds that pressure, even if it doesn't seem, if it's that ridiculously tight, it holds it down. And there you got it. Everything is all together here now on this one, and all you got to do at this point is, you know, lower your engine back down, put your starter nuts back on. Now, this application works for the Ford pickups, the Ford Econoline vans, you know, the Expeditions, Rangers that have the V8s in them, Explorers with V8s, Crown Victoria, Mercury Grand Marquis, any of the Fords in those years. But always remember to look for those 2 mounting bolt holes right away when you go to order. If you have the other design holes, call us direct. That's what I say is called a Triton head instead of the old regular Essex like these are. This is called a Ford Essex head. So, and if you got questions, feel free to always call us, please. Our products, like I say, are U.S. made, and we are not on Amazon. We build our parts right here, and we sell them, directly online. Thank you very much.